Is that unused bandwidth in your pocket? Or are you just happy to be Malcolm Turnbull? Tonight, on About Tonight, Greens Senator Scott Ludlam, Marngrook Footy Show creator Grant Hansen, producer of The Katering Show Tamasin Simpkin, and house band Vasili Kanidiadis, with your host, Lee Zachariah.
There was no audience there. I was literally just pointing at the crew. It's either that or learn their names. But if there was an audience here, you can bet I'd ask them to applaud for our house band. The one, the only, Vasili.
The house band. Okay, here we go.
Vasili.
How are you, mate?
Good. How are you? How has your entire life up until this point been?
Good. Just
good. Good.
It's been great, mate. It's been great.
Fantastic.
It's great to be here too. Thank you very much for having me.
It's great to have you here. What are you going to be playing for us tonight?
I'm going to play the squeeze box. Some people call it the accordion, but this is a nice little squeeze box. Paolo Soprani, we call him Jack. So he's our little mascot that's been coming around with me in tow everywhere we go, and they all look out for him. So that's the audience, the people, the house guests. Anybody and everybody always asks about Jack. So tonight we're going to play with Jack a few tunes for you, mate. Get you dancing, bit of a jig. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Well, this is my first and last time as host of About Tonight. And even though that is the typical length of time I stay at a job, it also dovetails nicely with the format of this program. Now, normally, I guess I'd talk about the events of the past week, but that seems oddly limiting given you've never heard me talk about the events of any week ever. Discussing the events of any point in history is just as valid as discussing current events, so I will, right here and now, talk about the events of a date, any date in history, as chosen by you.
Who, me?
Yes, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
The 16th of September, 1956.
16th of September, 1956. Okay, yeah, no, I've got some material for that. Thank you. So, doctors in Washington, D.C. have performed the first ever prefrontal lobotomy. Have you heard about this? They actually remove a part of your brain surgically. The Washington, D.C. doctors say the patient is recovering well and that Mamie Eisenhower is just happy to have him home. The funeral was held last week for controversial sex researcher Alfred Kinsey. Kinsey had passed away due to a heart ailment and complications from pneumonia. A spokesman for Dr. Kinsey said he wasn't dead, he was just a number 6 on the not breathing scale. But it's not all doom and gloom. Today is actually the birthday of American magician David Copperfield. And when I say his birthday, I mean his literal day of birth. Copperfield was born earlier today, completing his most impressive illusion to date, spending 9 months hidden inside the womb of insurance adjuster Rebecca Kotkin. When he emerged from Mrs. Kotkin, the 5-second-old Copperfield astounded nearby doctors and nurses, all of whom described the baby illusionist as very impressive, if a little douchey. Meanwhile, here in Melbourne, we are gearing up for the hosting of the 1956 Olympiad. Here's my prediction. Israel, the United Kingdom and France will nationalise the Suez Canal, leading to Egypt, Iraq and Lebanon boycotting the Games. There will be a Hungarian revolution around November, but I imagine the Soviet Union should crush that, leading to the Netherlands, Spain and Switzerland bowing out of the Games, and the People's Republic of China will probably stay at home in protest of the fact that the Republic of China is competing. But hey, I could be wrong. Go Dawn Fraser. But the most exciting thing to happen this week is the beginning of television in Australia. Bruce Gyngell introduced it to us with the phrase, "Good evening and welcome to television," which I felt was a little on the nose. I would have gone with something a bit more catchphrasy, like "Wazza Wazza Wazza" or "It's Bruce G on your TV." Television is, in this humble television presenter's opinion, the next big thing. It will prove an exciting training ground for a whole new generation of performers and producers, and will go wonderfully until around 2015, when the transition to the digital spectrum will leave community television high and dry. No punchline here, just a setup for the theme of tonight's episode. Vasili, accordion me to the desk. Yes, tonight is all about the future of community television. We're going to be joined by Senator Scott Ludlam, producer Tamasin Simpkin, and Marngrook host Grant Hansen to figure out where we are and where we're headed. Now, this is a topic that's near and dear to me. My, what I'm going to call for the sake of argument, career would not have happened without community television. I co-created a show about cinema called the Bazura Project. We filmed a pilot, we shopped it around to the networks, and no one was interested. But that was actually a good thing, because we did get picked up by Channel 31 and learned far more than we would have if we'd had immediate success right out of the gate. We ran for 3 seasons, plus a Christmas special, and honed our skills before moving on to ABC2 and getting cancelled after a 6-episode run. But the point is that a whole generation of TV producers and presenters are a direct result of this institution. And one of the most successful is, without a doubt, our house band leader, Vasili. Vasili, you have been on Channel 31 for quite some time, haven't you?
Oh, thank you very much.
In a good way.
Well, yes, quite a long time actually. A long time that I've enjoyed, and hope to enjoy a lot longer, mate. Yeah,
you're one of the enduring, iconic figures of Channel 31. It's very difficult to think of it without thinking of you.
I appreciate that so much. I never thought of myself in that format or in that way or that level, I suppose, within the network itself. It's just been something that I've enjoyed over the years producing. So, the years have gone by without realising, you blink and sneeze and another year's gone. So, and we're still doing what we're doing, what we love the most. It's getting out there in the garden and entertaining people at home. So, it's a great journey. It's been a great one for us, and I'm hoping to get another 10, 20 years out of it. There's been other iconic gardening presenters who've hit 80 plus and been on TV, so I've got another 55 years to go. Yeah, it's pretty good, eh?
Definitely. Now you went from Channel 31 to SBS,
yes,
and then back to Channel 31. I don't think many people have done it that way. Could you talk us through what happened there?
What would it be the other way? SBS 31 back to SBS?
Oh, that could work, yeah.
Look, like everybody else here, at the end of the day, I suppose this is the breeding ground for all up-and-coming producers, directors, presenters, and so on. And the opportunities of going to let's call it a commercial network or mainstream network, is a great opportunity. We've had others who've come through here. We could talk about Rove, Hamish and Andy and all that, and so on, the list goes. We had the opportunity of doing it ourselves as well. Now, we weren't in control of the destiny as far as which way the productions were going to be put together, let's say. And for that reason, that general reason is the reason why I came back here and saying, well, we were losing control of our production, our values, and what we believe are important for the show to be successful. And we try to keep them intact, and it took us years to agree to a contract with them, and we to and fro for many times, many meetings, and at the end of the day we agreed to it. We did a series with them. We had the opportunity to do a second one, but we reneged on that and said, no, we're coming back here. We're free here, mate. It's a little free willy. So we can do what we like within the guidelines, but enjoy it and entertain the people, because it's in my books, this network is a true community network. It really gives the opportunity of the common person who wants to be a presenter, cameraman, editor and so on, a voice and an opportunity to try it out, because tomorrow there is the other network. Some will go there, others will stay. I'll probably be part of the furniture when they shut us down. Carry it out. I don't want to go.
Well, okay, if Channel 31 does shut down, and this is a possibility we're facing.
We've got to be honest about this, yeah. It can happen.
And what will happen to Vasili's garden then?
We've got other networks, but we're not going there yet. So, guys, I'm hanging around here until, the fish cam comes back, if it does come back. But we're at the moment, we're confident in saying that this place will be around a lot longer than just the end of this year. So we're going to bat for it. That's why we're here today, mate. We're batting for it.
It's good to hear, and you are absolutely right, because I don't want to put too much pressure on us, but it's up to us here tonight to save community television. That's what this show is all about. So we'll be back after the break with Senator Scott Ludlam. Welcome back to About Tonight. We are now joined by one of the few voices in federal politics who seems to be in favour of Australian community TV surviving. He's the Greens Senator for Western Australia. Please welcome Senator Scott Ludlam. Hi Scott. Good thanks. My earpiece just fell out, but otherwise this seems to be going really well.
Otherwise all is well.
Now, thank you for joining us. This isn't quite Q&A. The plus side is you don't get insipid questions from the audience, you just get them from me.
Go for it.
Excellent. Now, I like to imagine that everyone dreams in some small part of what they would be like if they got into politics. Like they would be irreverent, they'd speak their mind, they'd do the funny things. Like if Senator Ian McDonald stood up in front of them wearing a fluoro vest for some reason, you would hold up a sign that says seriously. You'd like to imagine that's what you do, but so few politicians do that. You do. Why do they not?
Oh, everybody brings a different style to the job. That was one of the things actually that attracted me to it in the first place. You know, working with Bob and with Christine and Rachel and some of my other Senate colleagues, you realise that people can do the job in completely different ways depending on their style, on what they're interested in, on how they like to work. So, you know, yeah, sometimes I take the piss, sometimes things are a bit too serious for that. Everybody brings a different kind of style to it, I guess.
Well, you certainly do keep things lively. We actually have a clip of you in Senate estimates.
I move that the Security Council formally condemn Denmark and stop them from making any more unwarranted acts of aggression.
That's fantastic.
Smart-ass.
I'm really happy you and Leslie got together. That meant a lot to me. I had a lot invested in that. Now, do you think there's a certain amount of freedom not being in power? Just touching on what you were talking about with being part of the Greens and being able to sort of speak your mind a bit more. It feels like it's quite limiting for the Liberal or Labor who do actually are either in power or they're about to be in power. Is there a freedom that you have that they don't, do you think?
There's a freedom, I guess, in being in a minor party or being in any political party where the party actually stands very strongly for the things you believe in. I feel sorry for some of my colleagues who frequently have to vote for stuff that they deeply disagree with, and we saw that happen recently with the data retention debate, where there were people on the Liberal and the Labor side of the chamber voting expressly against something that they knew to be right. I dispute, I guess, the idea that we're not in power. The Greens in the last term with the Labor Party passed one of the most significant economic reforms of the last 10 years, the carbon price, and all of the sort of collateral initiatives that went around that. The Australian Senate is diverse. It's more diverse now than it's ever been before, like the largest crossbench that I think has ever been there in Senate history. And we're frequently put into a position where we're able to determine whether legislation's passed or not. So I think it's more about having the freedom of being with a political organisation that you actually believe in. On
the data retention, this is something you're quite passionate about. It's an issue that I feel like I really should agree with you on, and I sort of do, but from a practical standpoint, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I am deeply paranoid and have been all my life. And the moment the internet came in, I assumed from the first time I logged on that somebody was watching, someone was logging everything I was doing, and it was always this sort of someone peering over my shoulder. I guess my thing is, we've seen that with the I guess WikiLeaks and everything that's come out from that. They tend to do that whether the legislation is there or not. Isn't it better to shine a light on it and have that legislation passed so we can actually see to a degree what they're doing?
Well, we can't see what they're doing. And yeah, obviously the internet, the devices that are connected to the internet log everything or they couldn't function. And there's a question though about whether somebody's watching that or not. There are millions, and there's probably billions of hours of YouTube footage that people aren't watching. There's CCTV cameras everywhere that people don't have time to watch. Like there's a physical limitation on how much of this stuff can actually be monitored by people. What's more scary is when you get these huge pools of data that actually can be searched algorithmically for particular patterns that can bring people, to the attention of the authorities. That's all very well if they're tracking national security threats or organised crime. I don't think too many people have much of a problem with that. If they're going after climate change demonstrators, if they're trying to nail the person on Nauru who blew the whistle on horrific abuses in our detention system, and these mass surveillance tools are being turned on those kind of people, on journalists, then you've got a very significant problem. You've got effectively a surveillance weapon being turned on civil society. I think that's something we should all be concerned about.
But if, to quote a figure I just made up, if 99% of communication, or it seems it's that amount, is being conducted online, and that includes terrorism threats, what is the alternative? How do we search through all that if it's there and then it disappears?
Depends on who you mean by we. Would you be happy and would you consent to have somebody in your actual life, in your day-to-day life, following you around 2 or 3 paces behind you, just quietly recording everybody that you met, what you were wearing, whether you exchanged anything, exactly where you were at every minute where you communicated with a person? If that, you would find that behaviour kind of creepy. If the government authorised someone just to follow you around, recording every single detail, they'll sit there while you're sleeping, and watch you in case you reach out and send a text message so that they can record that too. You wouldn't tolerate a creeper like that in real life. Why the hell should we put up with that kind of behaviour online? The government seems to think it's appropriate that in a very real-time way that surveillance blanket should be thrown over the entire Australian population. There's 23 million non-national security threats, non-criminals. People aren't even suspected of anything.
So why was there bipartisan support for it? Why Labor seems to be saying no to almost everything the government suggests. Why did they voice no opposition?
Oh, you should ask the Labor Party that. I've got some very strong opinions on why they might have done that, but you'd be better off putting a Labor spokesperson on the spot. I think it's a real shame that Abbott, standing in front of his 6 flags or 8 flags or however many he's up to now, sought to get a poll bounce out of terrifying people, out of fear. Nobody's ever been able to provide any evidence that mass surveillance actually keeps us safer. Targeted surveillance obviously has a role in law enforcement, and it has for a very long time. Mass surveillance of entire populations, no one's been able to provide any evidence that it keeps us safer. So I think, my fear is Labor supported it purely on political grounds, that they just didn't want to be wedged. They didn't want to be seen as being soft on national security. They would rather talk about debt, or they'd rather talk about childcare, or they'd rather talk about, whatever. And they just wanted to kind of neutralise the debate and get it over with. That's kind of a sick way of dealing with something as important as this. I think it's a real shame.
So is the genie out of the bottle now? Can we walk this back in the future?
It's a good question, and that kind of stuff is very difficult. In my experience, surveillance laws really only march one way. Since I've been in Parliament for 6 or 7 years, you see amendments to the ASIO Act and the Telecommunications Interception and Access Act. Sometimes it feels like every couple of months. They're always widening the scope of the powers, always expanding. It's very difficult to get this stuff back in the box. But I wouldn't use that as a reason to give up and just leave them to it. This stuff is actually way too important for that. I think really what comes next in terms of the genie being out of the bottle is let's map the genie. Let's track data breaches and abuses and corruption and document very carefully when this thing goes wrong. I don't know what you reckon, but I think it's probably only a matter of months after this thing gets on its feet, after it's properly implemented, that we would see large-scale data breaches, either material from important public figures being spilled, or large-scale releases of personal information of ordinary people who weren't doing anything wrong. It won't give us any pleasure to say that we told you so, but that's probably going to be an important factor in getting it rolled back.
So did you ever get to see George Brandis's metadata? Like, did you get a peek when he was in the bathroom?
No, I didn't, and nor would I want to. I mean, that was kind of, a cute device. I don't think George Brandis's metadata should be public. It's none of anybody's business unless he's committing a crime or is corrupt, and we've got no reason to believe that he is. So it's actually nobody's business, but that's precisely our point. The state should not feel free to be going through your stuff if you're not suspected of anything.
All right, when we return, we're going to talk about community television's future with Senator Scott Ludlam. We are back with Senator Scott Ludlam. Now, we don't have a lot of time left. I don't actually mean in this interview, I mean literally on this station, because community TV is being shut down at the end of this year. What did we do to treat the government so bad?
I don't understand actually what this is about, and maybe you can help me out. Community TV doesn't cost the taxpayer anything. I would argue it's a net benefit to the community, apart from media diversity, but also obviously the amazing training that people get, and just the fact that there's something else to watch besides commercial television. And they're not due, even if the argument is about getting you off the air so that the spectrum can be auctioned off, that's not due for another 5 years, and they couldn't get rid of the stuff in the last auction. So maybe this is a bit unorthodox as an interview style, but what the hell? Maybe you can help us out. Why are they doing this to you?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery. I mean, Turnbull's quotes on this, he said that the spectrum is a scarce public resource. And it certainly is finite. There aren't infinite. Sure. But I mean, I don't know. When I flick around the TV, I see Spree TV and whatever else. It's just 24-hour shopping networks. And I think if we're going to talk about it as a public resource, you can't just commercialise it to the nth degree the way he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would agree with that. It's oceans of garbage. The multi-channels are barely watchable, and maybe there's, you can kind of see the audience figures. There's obviously a niche. There's people who are interested in staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Home Shopping Channel, and good luck to them. That's the benefit, I guess, of having free press. But I honestly don't understand why you would smash up perfectly good community broadcasters. So to my mind, given that there's actually no funding in it, that it's purely a political decision that's being made for commercial purposes that obviously haven't been made clear, I think you're in a winnable position. I think it's a decision that could be reversed if we shout loud enough.
Well, let's shout.
Let's shout. Guess what? You're a broadcaster. This is a room full of cameras. You've got transmission equipment. You've got bandwidth. You've got spectrum. Let's get your audience into it.
Let's do it. We need to galvanise. I've been trying to think about what Turnbull, what his approach is, and he seems to be really pushing for the online thing.
Yes.
Now he says that we should move online. Hasn't really given us enough time to make the transition. I mean, transitioning from one medium to another is a huge, huge task. Do you think that if we are going to move online, if all of entertainment is going to sort of be this amalgamated online viewing that he seems to think it is, that community TV can survive in that environment?
I think it can survive, and I think the instinct about people's viewing habits shifting online is a good one. I just think this is a call that's been made 5 years too early. Imagine if Turnbull had gone to Kerry Stokes and said the future of broadcasting is on the internet, so we're pulling your spectrum, Channel 7, knock yourself out, go and play on YouTube and make the best of it there. There'd be a riot. They wouldn't do that in a million years. I think you can come back in 5 to 10 years, assuming that we can get the NBN back on the rails and that it's not, a kind of catastrophic mess in the way that it is at the moment. But if you give it till kind of 2019 or 2020, if there's a proper period of transition and investment in getting community TV into a good position, I think it's a great idea, but not to just kill the stations, not just 31, but around the country in 2015 for no good reason before that transition has taken place. It's madness.
I guess trying to reconcile Turnbull's view of the internet being the future with the changes to the NBN is very, very difficult, and we know that he believes this. There was some talk at the beginning when everyone on the left briefly thought that he was sort of the left's inside person in the Liberal Party, that he was being pushed into this terrible plan. But this is something he actually believes. He believes that the internet only needs to be so advanced, that we only need to put so much money into it, so much infrastructure. And at the same time, he's pushing, it feels like a bit of a line that he's not actually interested in community TV surviving.
Well, I guess so. He signed off on an agreement to kill it by the end of the year. So, yeah, that would be incompatible with it surviving. Pulling your spectrum rips you off air without any kind of transition in place to make sure that people know where they can find you online. And, as you've said and as your materials say, it's 89 or 90% of viewing hours are still watched on broadcast television. I reckon in 5 years, it'll be a lot less. You know, it'll be a lot less. So that let's talk about a transition rather than just shutting the lights out in 8 months' time.
It's wonderful to have you here, but I do feel like we're sitting here aggressively agreeing with one another.
Exactly. I can't believe you just said that. It's so right.
I'm outraged.
It's so true.
You suggest there is a glimmer of hope that it's not, we're not completely toasted yet. We've only got about 6-7 months left. What can possibly be done?
I think, we faced this a couple of years ago actually with community radio broadcasters when the previous government was in the process of pulling a couple of really important programs and also kind of starving the sector of funding. And the radio audiences obviously are a lot larger and they're more diverse and they're more dispersed around the country. But what they got onto very quickly was the fact that, hang on, we're broadcasters. We can talk to people, we can reach people, we have an audience. These people vote. And if they're watching the station, obviously they care about its continuity. So I think probably the most important thing we could do in the next 6 months is grow the audience and politicise them and get into Mr. Turnbull's ear about delaying this decision so that a proper transition can happen. It's not going to cost the budget anything. It's going to be politically popular, even amongst people who don't watch community TV. It's nice to know that it's there. I think getting on a fairly serious campaign footing, look, you've got nothing to lose. All this equipment, all the expertise, all the volunteer hours that get put in, I think a proportion of that can be channeled towards engaging the audience and getting them active.
All right, so what we need is for everyone to tweet at Malcolm Turnbull, tell him we need more time to move online, but don't just stop at the tweeting. You can actually physically go to his office. That is an option, and he can't mute you as easily as he can on Twitter. So maybe try doing that. Well, Senator Scott Ludlam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to have you here, and we'll be back after the break with Grant Hansen. My next guest is the host of the Marngrook Footy Show, currently screening on NITV. Please welcome Grant Hansen. Hey.
How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Grant.
Yeah.
Marngrook, going from strength to strength.
It has. It's been going for 9 years, and it's been a great, incredible journey, actually. There's been some highs and there's been some lows, but we've had a great time making the show. And obviously we're nominated for a Logie this year, so, we've come a long way in a relatively a long time, so to speak. So
it's very exciting.
Very exciting. It's been fun. It's been great fun.
So you've that journey has been incredible because you've been on Channel 31 and ABC and NITV, and the show just keeps going. I love that. Could you talk us through that journey?
Well, it does get bigger and bigger. We started off on NITV on Foxtel, and it was relayed into Melbourne on Channel 31 at the time as well, so that Melbourne viewers could actually see the program. And it gained a cult following. It was a radio show first, which started off at 3CR in Melbourne and 3KND, Indigenous radio station here. And it built and then it became a TV show when NITV came into fruition about 10 years ago. So it was the first commissioned show on NITV, and the show, as you mentioned, it's just got bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And we have a great team there. We have a great bunch of people, cast and crew. So it's always a highlight of the week to go and to make the Marngrook Footy Show.
It was quite polished right out of the gate. Is that because, in a way that as someone who started on 31 with a very, very shaky show, and we were really learning the ropes on camera, I was quite impressed with how good it looked right from the beginning. Is that because NITV had financial support, was able to sort of give you that structure? Or?
Well, there's probably a little bit of that, but my company, Tumbuk, which makes the show, has got a lot of experienced TV people that have been, working around the major networks. So I think those sort of things help make the show a lot better. And I was the only one on the TV show that actually had any TV experience prior to, us making Marngrook. So basically everybody followed my lead, and I actually trained people up on the spot, as you do when you're making community television. So I was able to give people tips and talk them through about how they do things, how they present, how they go about doing the show. So, you know, I was their mentor as well as being the host as well. But after a while, people just sort of found their groove, and the show sort of just took off. And you know, credit to the guys that work on the show, because, you know, without having any previous experience, it's pretty nerve-wracking, as you would imagine, for anybody. So obviously the set helps when you've got a groovy set, and NITV have been great supporters of the show. So the set helped make the show look really smooth as well. But so are we professional? Are we slick? Well, a little bit of that, and a little bit of looseness as well. We don't try to be that polished that we're Channel 9 football show, but we like to be a little bit relaxed about it so that people can relate to it. Yeah,
I mean, that's certainly why I enjoy watching it. It does feel like I'm actually welcomed into the space.
Yeah.
It's such a great training ground. There is no better way to learn how to make TV than making TV. So I imagine, you know, you've had a lot of people come up through Marngrook who, you know, started not knowing anything and now know professionals. Oh,
look, for sure. I mean, you know, Layla Guruwewe and Charlie Ware, who work on the program, the two girls, you know, they get many mainstream gigs. Layla's in a couple of feature television drama series this year, so she's gone along in leaps and bounds. Chris Johnson, who's on the panel, was working on 3AW on mainstream radio as a special comments person. And behind the scenes too, we've had a number of Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people working on cameras and lighting and all that, and they've branched off into the mainstream TV arena too. So we're really chuffed about them being able to get that, you know, recognition and being able to get jobs in the mainstream television arena as well. And, you know, what a better place than to work at Channel, you know, 31 and, you know, these community organisations, whether it's radio or TV. But, you know, that's the grounding, that's the place where you can, you know, learn your craft, get your experience, and hopefully, you know, go off to bigger and better things.
So the media landscape has changed so much since you created Marngrook. There are now, I think I'm right in saying there are 5 million channels. I'm not sure, but there are like streaming services.
And more to come.
And more to come.
Yeah.
And there's the internet, you know, is a lot faster, and people watch things in all kinds of different ways. If you created Marngrook today, how do you think it would fare?
I believe in the show itself. I think the show, you know, it's like a good song. A good song will always be a hit in any generation, whether it's in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. A good song. So a good TV show will always be a good TV show. But you're right about the media. The landscape has changed dramatically over time. And I think, you know, in the next 10 years, everyone will probably be watching stuff on the internet and programming their own week of TV programs that they want to watch. So it's basically trying to keep up with the modern technology that's out there. And we just believe that in the product of our show is a good show, and that you know, will continue to be a great show in 20 years' time, whichever format that might be on. It might be on Netflix, it could be anywhere, but it's going to be around for a lot longer than what I will be.
There's, it's interesting that people tend to, appointment viewing has sort of gone away, and people seek out, oh, there's that show I like, I'll watch it whenever I want. But there are still so many people who will come to a show because they're channel surfing. And you know, when you get to NITV on the dial, do you find more people now that digital TV has taken such a foothold, more people are coming to your show that way?
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that is what's happened the last few years with digital TV coming through, and a lot more people aware of NITV, particularly if they've got a digital box and they're programming into their TV, and now they've got all these other channels besides the usual mainstream ones. So NITV has certainly got a much bigger awareness about it now, and you know, there's some great shows on NITV that a lot of people are becoming aware of, and probably doesn't get the publicity and recognition that it deserves as a network. But through word and mouth, NITV started to grow legs and, you know, become a part of the staple diet of people's TV watching during the week. So, you know, like Channel 31, a lot of people are used to watching Channel 31 over a long period of time as well. So in time, NITV will gather that momentum as well.
So what's the future for Marngrook? What are your dreams and aspirations for it?
Look, I just think the show will continue to get bigger. It's a football show for everybody. It's not just an Indigenous program. You know, as long as it stays true to itself and talks football and keeps that as the staple diet of the program. I think, you know, the personalities may change on the show, which it has over a long period of time, over 9 years, but, you know, maybe in 5 years' time it might be another host, but I see that the TV program will have legs for a long, long time. So hopefully in 20 years' time you'll be interviewing some other young bloke Young, some other guy on the show, and we'll continue to prosper. But football's the number one sport here in Australia, not only for Indigenous people but for mainstream Australians as well. Over 90,000 Indigenous people participate in Aussie Rules football every weekend right across Australia. That's a huge number of people considering we only represent 3% of the population. So it's that big, Aussie Rules football, and it's a career path and a way to making money and setting themselves up in life through AFL football as a vehicle. But there hasn't been too many Indigenous people that have branched off into the media. So the vehicle of the Marngrook Footy Show may help Indigenous people, become regular callers, maybe writing columns in the Herald Sun, in The Age, all that sort of stuff. All around football, the media, we want to see more Indigenous people embraced into that part of things.
Well, it's a fantastic show, and I'm delighted to see it going from strength to strength. Congrats on the Logie nomination, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. Good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be right back after this break. Our next guest is the producer of The Katering Show, the internet comedy sensation produced right here in Melbourne. Please welcome Tamasin Simpkin. I thought we should step it up a bit. Yeah. I didn't kiss the other guests, I should admit that. Tam, welcome to About Tonight, and congratulations on The Katering Show.
Thank you.
This isn't a question, but it's so funny. It's so funny.
Thank you.
Like I was saying before, there are, I don't know, you kind of adjust your expectations for Australian stuff. You go, oh yeah, that's pretty funny. Like that's good for us. Like that, yeah, well done us. And this one, no adjustment necessary. Like I was guffawing in every single episode. The ratio of gags, so good.
Yeah, there's a lot packed in there.
There really is, yeah. How did you and the two Kates get together on this?
So we actually had previously worked together on another web series called Bleak, which is also on the Lead Balloon channel. And we kind of got joined together. I worked for Princess Pictures and they were coming to Princess Pictures with this idea. So we got paired together and so produced those 4 episodes, which went online. And now that's actually in development with the ABC as well. So that was more kind of like a proof of concept series of videos. And then they approached me at the beginning of last year with an idea for a cooking show. And there was a few kind of funding opportunities around at the time with like SBS Comedy Runway and ABC Fresh Blood and the Screen Australia multi-platform funding. So we kind of put together applications for everything.
Lots of paperwork.
Lots of paperwork, and we got the Screen Australia one, which was nice.
We've been talking a lot today about community TV and what the future of it is going to be. And there's a push from the government for community TV to move online. And I think there's an expectation that you sort of don't need the support if you're making it for online because people can film anything on their phones and put it online. But this is quite a lavish production, and you did need that support. So talk us through where that came from.
So Screen Australia multi-platform funding provided us with 75% of our budget, and yeah, so they've been funding a lot of web series, but it's also, I believe, covers kind of digital extensions of television programs and that kind of thing as well. And so yeah, they've been getting behind quite a few other web series that have done really well as well. Like I think, for example, Plonk is already online, but I just saw that they've got the multi-platform funding for Series 2, and How to Talk Australians was another one that came out before us that Screen Australia funded.
So you still need, even though it's just for online, you still need that support to really...
Oh, to be able to make it at that production level. And I actually think probably the thing, because you can make stuff on your own, but to be able to hit that kind of production level, and because it was a lot of work, like in terms of stepping it up from like a short film to a 6-episode web series. Like that's a big jump to be able to make a series. Like you might be able to shoot 1 episode of a web series around paid work and pull together enough resources, but if you're actually going to make it ongoing, you definitely need money. And in terms of the marketing, you definitely need money. Like you can't, to get like the publicity and we had some paid marketing and that kind of thing. That's not the kind of thing that you can just get friends to help you do because it actually costs money. So, yeah. Now,
it was hugely successful. The publicity for this was amazing. Obviously, I was aware of it before it was coming, and then it was like this tidal wave of like magazine covers and articles and like the whole internet talking about it. Did you anticipate any of that?
No, so before it came out, we were like, it would be really nice if we got like 100,000 views. Like then we'd feel like we'd done something. And so we were like, when we got to 100,000, we were like texting each other. And then I think it was on a Friday night, Gizmodo posted an article which was, this is the only Thermomix review you'll ever need to see. And then on the Saturday, it just was like, I think the next day it was like 400,000 views in a day or something. And then we were all just texting each other being like, man, we did not see this coming. It's crazy. And then, of course, all the press started picking it up and social media started picking it up. And suddenly people were coming up to us being like, my cousin who doesn't even know you told me that she watched it and really liked it. And I was like, yeah, people who don't know us are watching it.
Because it really taps into something that's happening now. The whole, not just the foodie thing, but the quitting sugar thing. And I think the fact that it appeals to both people who hate that stuff and people who are really into that stuff. It's got a really great sort of crossover there.
Yeah, the Kates wrote it in a very clever way. So, you know, even with like the Thermomix and quitting sugar and stuff, they're never completely saying it's stupid. Like the Thermomix does do what it says, and quitting sugar does make you feel better, but it's just like, then they just make jokes about as if you would spend that much money on a kitchen appliance, or as if you would give up sugar because you'll have no friends because they won't want to hang out with you anymore. So it's kind of, they've got a good sense of humour about it. And Sarah Wilson actually responded to the episode on her blog, corrected a couple of things, like said she does drink quite a lot because we said that she didn't drink alcohol. Turns out that wasn't true. But yeah, she was very good-natured about it and said, you know, it was good to watch something that kind of made fun of it but wasn't mean. Yeah. And actually, Kate McLennan caught up for a wine with her the other week, so.
Well, that's, I mean, that is key, because it's not mean-spirited, but it's also merciless.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
That's
true.
It's a very clever line to walk.
Fine line to walk.
We're going to give you what you want.
That's right, we're going to road test everybody's jeder Lieblingsküchengerät, the Thermomix.
So what is a Thermomix, I hear anyone under the age of 33 ask? It's a blender, a microwave, an ice bucket, and a set of kitchen scales.
It's a gangbang of kitchen appliances that's created a futuristic robot saucepan.
It's the kind of appliance that your rich mother-in-law gives you as a wedding gift because she doesn't think you can cook.
Or something that you buy yourself because you've always wanted to join a cult but you don't have the energy for the group sex. One thing's for sure though, if you buy a Thermomix, you will not regret it. You will love it.
And you will tell everyone you love it, because you just spent $2,000 on something you can't get a refund on.
It's like an IVF baby that ends up being a psychopath. You have no choice but to love it.
Unless, of course, you got it from Thailand, in which case you just leave it behind.
So I have to ask, did you, where did you get your start in film? Like, did you have like an inspirational teacher, or like if you were like working like in year 12 and in the media department, a guy started working there who just exuded wisdom and just intelligence and confidence. Is maybe someone like that?
Yeah, there was this guy Lee who was around during year 12.
Really?
Yeah, he was quite inspirational.
Well, I've got to. Sorry, I needed to get on camera that I had inspired. The whole career.
You were definitely involved, but it's funny because actually Millsy, who was our media teacher at high school, we went to high school together, and then Lee was an assistant when I was in year 12. Yeah, he was probably the one who got me into media. I don't know if he was the same for you.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah,
yes, he was responsible for a lot of media careers, and so we have a lot to thank him for.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't pay very well, the media career.
True. That's true.
We should have gone into teaching.
Yes, exactly. He led us down the wrong path.
He did. Damn you, Millsy. The Katering Show is online. You can watch it not right this second, when this episode of About Tonight is over. You can go to thecateringshow.com and watch it. It is very, very funny. It is very shareable. Tell all your friends about it. Tam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that is our show. My huge thanks to Senator Scott Ludlam, Tamasin Simpkin, Grant Hansen, and the incomparable Vasili, and to everyone at Channel 31. But before we go, I have a message for the one person who has it in their power to save us. Communications Minister Malcolm Turnbull, this is for you. Hey Malcolm, stop what you're doing. Hey Malcolm, you're driving us to ruin. Look, I don't know what you want with the spectrum. Oh, you hurt us so? But do we need another shopping channel? I'm gonna go with no. Communication breakdown. You know what we fear. Getting rid of local content to sell exercise gear. Hey Malcolm, I got something I think you ought to know. The cost of Channel 31 to the government is actually zero. Places like this mean so much to the community, and you know that saving it is right. Keeping all of these brilliant shows like, I don't know, About Tonight. Communication breakdown. You know we're not gonna go. But please allow me to convince you with this accordion solo. Take it, Vasili. Malcolm, let's preserve one of the last places in which Australians can create content that doesn't revolve around renovating houses or making dinner. Because as long as terrestrial television is still the most popular way that audiences consume programs, community TV needs a fair shot. We both know that if the internet really was preferable to broadcast television, that 7, 9 and 10 would be the first ones to ditch the signal and hightail it to the web. And I know you don't want to get me started on the NBN. So let's put our cards on the table. There is still time for you to do the right thing and preserve a small part of the digital spectrum. Just a small part. It costs you nothing and the benefits will be huge and long term. You know it's the right thing to do.